He hadn't meant to idealize her, to put her on a pedestal or overwhelm her, yet there she was, radiant. She pulled people in with her smile, a warm handshake, and the effortless way she made space for everyone. "Are you the organizer?" someone asked. She smiled, shook her head, and replied, "No, just a woman in a sundress, making room for others." Then she looked at him, eyes full of warmth, curiosity, and questions. Matthew shifted uncomfortably in his seat, gripping the neck of his bottle to stop his hand from trembling. His nerves sometimes had a life of their own. "What does your tattoo mean?" she asked, leaning in, her interest apparent. "I drew it," Matthew replied. "A ghost, an image from a day when his father had ignored his new leather shoes. He'd traded his worn Vans for something that fit the image of a real man, though deep down he wasn't sure what that even meant." "Really? What does it mean?" she asked, her eyes wide in wonder. "I think it's about feeling invisible," Matthew said. "What does that feel like?" she asked. How could she know? How could he possibly explain that sense of being overlooked, unnoticed, just a ghost in the room? But something shifted in him as he looked at her. She wasn't just a bubbly face, a pretty woman. She was a person, layered with complexities he hadn't yet begun to understand. "Do you really listen when people speak? Or do you see what they don't say, what isn't obvious?" Matthew's mind raced as she continued talking, her lips moving gently, her eyes flickering with something he couldn't quite place. He stuttered through his responses, hands jittery as she noticed the tremor in his fingers. She didn't say anything, but her eyes lingered on his discomfort. "What brings you to Lille?" he asked, hoping to fill the silence. She smiled, lips curving softly. Her response was something he wasn't sure he understood, but it didn't matter. He was transfixed by the way she moved, the way she spoke. Her freckles caught the sunlight. The dry skin on her nose, the untrimmed nasal hairs, the soft fullness of her lips, none of it was perfect. Yet it made her seem more real, more human. She wasn't an idealized image. She was ordinary, flawed. And for once, Matthew told himself he wouldn't fall into the trap of idealizing her again. He wouldn't. And yet, a part of him still wanted to. "What about you?" she asked, breaking the spell. "What about me?" Matthew replied, suddenly feeling like he was on the receiving end of the questions. "Pourquoi es-tu venu à Lille?" Her French accent was soft, inviting, and her voice shifted when she spoke it, almost regressing into something younger, more innocent. Matthew smiled nervously, his heart picking up its pace. "I know I've been thinking a lot about you," Matthew confessed, lying beside her on her bed, trying to make sense of everything. "I've been reminding myself that you're just another person, flawed, imperfect, and that I have to accept that." "You've idealized me," Nora said, turning her head toward him. "I'm trying not to," Matthew said, voice a little too tight. "I'm focusing on your flaws, on seeing you as you are, not as I want you to be." "That's still obsessive," Nora replied. "I don't want to be anyone's obsession. It's reductive, even dehumanizing." She went on to tell him about Laurent, the guy from the language exchange who touched her despite her pulling away. He hadn't seen her, really seen her, but instead projected his own desires onto her. Matthew felt the weight of her words. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable," he said, swallowing hard. "We can be just friends if that's what you want, but I'm not sure I could just be friends with you." Nora looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Coffee?" she asked, as if trying to change the subject, trying to escape the heaviness of their conversation. The next morning, Matthew received a text from her. His heart sank as he read the words, "I think we got carried away last night. I'm feeling a little uncomfortable. Can we go back to being platonic? I'd like to bring a friend to the fireworks." Matthew stared at his screen, torn. He typed a message, then deleted it, then typed again. His thoughts were disjointed, the overwhelming feelings of confusion and frustration seeping into every word. He wanted to reply, to justify his actions, but he couldn't find the right words. Instead, he scrolled through the conversation they'd had, rereading message after message, trying to figure out where it had gone wrong. He knew it wasn't just about a kiss or a moment. It was about something deeper, a failure to see her as she was, to respect her boundaries. "I'm afraid of intimacy," he wrote. "But deep down, I think you're scared too. You're closed off, yes, but I think you're afraid of being hurt again." He paused, the weight of his words pressing down on him. He wished it were that simple, but it wasn't. Nora's message was clear. She didn't want him like that. She didn't want her to make her something she wasn't. She wasn't some puzzle to solve. Nora sat in her apartment, feeling a strange mixture of nausea and clarity. He had created a narrative around her, painted her with his desires and expectations, and it had seeped into everything, into her thoughts, her feelings, even the very air she breathed. His idealization had taken on a tangible form, a ghost of his own creation. She pushed her plate aside, the taste of him lingering on her tongue, but all of it felt wrong now, stale, contaminated. She didn't belong in his version of her. She was tired of being someone's idea of who they wanted her to be. She hadn't asked for this. He hadn't asked for it either. But here they were, two people who had failed to see each other for who they truly were. That night, Mateu found himself standing outside her door one last time. The weight of his emotions was crushing, but something in him told him that this time it would be different. Maybe she'd let him in. Maybe they could talk, make sense of it all. But as he reached for the door handle, he hesitated. He stood still for a moment, reflecting. He had been idealizing her, seeing only what he wanted to see. He had been chasing a version of her, a version she could never be. With a heavy heart, Mateu turned away. Nora lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling. She wasn't sure if he was still outside, or if he had gone. Either way, she knew one thing. She wasn't going to wait for him to see her for who she really was. She wasn't going to be reduced to his fantasy any longer. She had made her choice. She was going to live her life, her real life, without him. The door remained closed.